welcome back to the Social Media Derby. Before we get into this episode, which is going to be a really cool one, I think, and I haven't seen too much like kind of fan content creators talking about this issue or this debate, online. So it'll be a really interesting one, I hope. But before we get into it and our special guest, for those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share if you can, drop your comments down below. For those of you listening on Spotify or any of the audio platforms, please follow, give us a 5-star review. Also remember, the audio-only platforms is the only place to get the full episode. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll most likely see, cuts of different episodes, different parts of this episode online. So, if you want to just listen without having to keep clicking, listen on the audio platform and then you'll get the full episode. But let's get into it then. So we've got a very special guest this week. Draco Wang. He's the Arsenal ethnic minority supporters representative, massive Arsenal fan, home and away, he's there. Welcome, Draco. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Antony, for the introduction. I've been looking forward to this call the whole week after the game that we've played. So doing great and very excited to be in this episode.
Let's go on to the next section of the pod then and talk to you a little bit, Draco, about kind of yourself and your journey, but also this topic of plastic tourist fans, which has kind of been sparked quite a lot recently because of season ticket prices have gone up at different Premier League teams, and a lot of the match going fans of many years have started pointing fingers. But let's get into you first. Like tell us a little bit about yourself, like your background, how you became an Arsenal fan, like what was the moment that kind of somehow diverted you to support the Gunners?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in China, so I think like a lot of fans that get labeled as tourist fans in the UK, I shared a similar path as them growing up. I had to secretly wake up at 2-3 a.m. Avoid my parents and have to be very quiet walking down the stairs so they don't wake up hearing that. Sneak into the living room to watch the game, and watch from 2 to 4 a.m. and then go back to sleep and pretend nothing happened. So that's been most of my experience growing up watching football in general. I wouldn't say that I was just born as an Arsenal fan or anything. I started as a football fan first. My cousin watches a lot of football. He likes Barcelona, and I know, Jonty. He likes Barcelona, and he watches a lot of World Cup footballs. I think he's got different teams, but the first one we watched together was 2010 when I think he supported the Dutch team. So he's played a bit of influence in my life and liking football. And my connection, my relationship with Arsenal, I think started in probably 2006 when we went to the Champions League final. Obviously we lost it, but we had a lot of great players. And then 2006, and then we had Robin Van Persie and we had Rosicky. So I've been watching Arsenal for a few years without saying that I'm a committed Arsenal fan. But then I think what really changed was when Thierry Henry came back to the team, and then I learned everything about Thierry Henry, and then watching him scoring against Leeds, and then next year we signed Mesut Ozil and everything. That was when I realized, okay, I really like this team. Arsene Wenger plays absolute elegant football. So yeah, that's when I call myself a diehard Arsenal fan, and I would never miss a single game. And that's when I started to get laughed by my cousin a lot, because he supports Barcelona. At that point, that team was really strong, and then we faced them almost every year in the Champions League. So it's been tough growing up as an Arsenal fan, because I kind of missed all the glorious period of the team.
Yeah.
And in China, I think the biggest teams would be Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Man United. And I think United fans gave me a lot of laughs too when I was in secondary school when Robin Van Persie won the Premier League.
The little boy inside, he has to listen to it. Man. But no, I want to give you a huge shout out for that, because me and John's, obviously our background our dad is Chinese, but like we lived in China. John's lived there for like 4 or 5 years. I lived there for like 10, 11 years. When I was a United fan already growing up in the UK, but I tell you what, man, the level of dedication of Chinese and like Far East or fans like in Australia or whatever is unrivaled. To wake up at the crazy hours, like you said, like I couldn't cope with it. I'll be honest. I find it difficult here just keeping up with all the games going on at in the normal daytime. But to be able to wake up, Champions League used to be the killers because they were like 7, 8 p.m. just in Chinese time, terrible, middle of the night, early morning. It's a struggle. So I think when we get into this discussion in a little bit, I think a lot of people got to bear that in their mind when they kind of question the dedication and the sacrifice that a lot of overseas fans do for their team. It's next level, man. I think yeah, the amount of people I remember, and this is selfishly going down the United route, watching the Champions League final. I was at a big bar in Beijing, and it was like 3, 4 a.m. That match obviously went into penalty shootout, 4, 5 a.m. The bar was packed. This is 4, 5 a.m. You know what I mean? Like it was packed, and there were dedicated, big diehard fans everywhere watching it. So yeah, big respect for you for that, man. But John, do
that's
you
why I
want to?
moved to the UK. That's why I moved to UK, because I couldn't cope with waking up at 3 a.m. So.
To be honest, fair enough, man. I get it. Like that is, I don't know how you can live that life. But John, do you want to get into the question, because I know you're interested in?
I mean,
Draco.
I was just gonna say another bit of respect needs to go. That like you chose to become an Arsenal fan at the exact time where we stopped winning things. So like no one can even call you a glory hunter. You know what I mean? Right? Like so that's typically a lot of the title that comes with the plastic fan thing is they also tend to be supporting the teams that are the biggest at the time, right? So
yeah.
Like the fact that you have slogged through a really, really tough 20 years as an Arsenal fan just goes to show, there's a lot of respect in that. Because, I mean, when I was in Beijing and we were that terrible, I'm not waking up for anything, mate. I'm not waking up to watch any of that. Right? I'll watch the highlights afterwards. I won't even do that sometimes based off of how bad we were. So there's a massive amount of respect that needs to be given for that, because, man, it completely changes your emotional state. I don't know how you were getting up and going to school after some of those nights that we had, mate. I would have just had my head in the pillow all day.
That's why I'm always optimistic and say that we're going to win the league since last season. It's trained me to have a big heart, so it's good.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. Yeah, so I mean, let's talk a little bit about your role as the ethnic minority supporters representative. Like, I don't even know how you how do you even get that role? How do you become one? Is it something that you how do you get in dialogue with the club, and like what do you have to do? Do you have special duties on a match day, or like what do you do as part of that?
So I think how I saw the job advert was I was just browsing on Twitter or something. I follow Arsenal, and then one day they posted that we have a vacancy as a minority supporter representative. Submit your application. So I click on the link. I had a look, and then they were just asking for my basic information and my connection to the community, what I'm aiming to do within the club, stuff like that. So I think I was still in university when I submitted that form. I didn't think the club would ever get back to me. I thought I would just fill it anyways. And a few weeks after, they reached out to me and said I've been selected to be the ethnic minority fan rep. And then the next meeting we'll host on Zoom. I think that was COVID times. So I think the forum has always been there. There are different roles. Apart from there is the red, silver, and gold members representative. So that's the 3 membership tiers in Arsenal Football Club. There are a representative from Gay Gunners. That's for the LGBTQ roles. There's a women's rep, fan for disabled, and then there are also other fan engagement representatives. So it's a mix of different supporters that represent different interests, but then come together to a forum that we meet almost quarterly to discuss the club's operations and ticketing, any topics that's on the table. But then for me, I just gather all the feedbacks on the diversity, inclusion, and equality stuff, and then brings to the table as a club, what we're gonna do, how we tackle these kind of issues. So I think when I was elected, that was around the Black Lives Matter movement. I think that's when Premier League or Arsenal really started to look at this EDI perspective of football. So I think it's been quite a journey, and I've seen a lot of football clubs, not just Arsenal, making huge steps into this field. And I think as a ethnic minority supporter in Premier League, we should be proud of how far we've gone to, and I'm confident that in the future we will even make more improvements to these aspects.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I definitely agree. Like, I don't know how you feel, Johns, but going to football in the last couple of years, it's definitely a lot better. The experiences for me, comparatively speaking, to when we'd kind of gone when we were younger, it's definitely improved. Like, it's not there completely yet. I feel like it's not a haven. I've been to some women's football games, and the atmosphere there is, I think, closer to kind of maybe what the men's side want to achieve. But it's improved a lot, man. I think sometimes that gets lost when we discuss like some of these big issues. We also have to recognize that there's been big strides because of people like you and, like you said, the other representatives kind of getting to the table and sharing your thoughts and your suggestions and stuff. But let's get into this big debate then. I want to get your opinion. I've seen you on Twitter talk about it before. This tourist plastic versus real fan debate. Like, do you think this is actually something that is an issue in football, or do you think that this is just like a thinly veiled form of discrimination against certain types of people in the ground? Like, what's your honest opinion?
I think for me it's very serious, and it's got everything linked with xenophobic behaviors and discriminations. So when I apply for this fan rep work, I was saying that I want to use my backgrounds to help the club to stop all forms of discriminations. And then the least I expect is to have discriminations directed against East Asians, because going to Arsenal games for the first few years, it was quite easy for me. I didn't get any type of discriminations. And then the recent 2-3 seasons see Arsenal's performance going up, and then more supporters going back to the stadium. And then I think East Asians are always the group that gets called out, and we just suddenly become tourists despite going to the Emirates Stadium for the past 5 or 10 years. So yeah, I think that's a huge problem, and it really disencouraged a lot of East Asian fans around me who have supported Arsenal through thick and thin. I think, yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
no,
I mean, that
go on, John.
I wanted to ask you, like, where do you think it comes from? Obviously, we understand where discrimination in general tends to come from, but like specifically the plastic fan kind of debate, where do you think that stems from, and why do you think it is that people are trying to single out East Asians specifically as being the ones that are the plastic fans versus other races? And
Yeah, I think from my observation, number one is that from last season the ticket has been so expensive in the second-hand market, and people just probably automatically think that Asians who travel afar from other countries who are more affluent they're more likely to spend 2, 3, or 500 to buy a ticket, and then that in some people's mind that disturbs the market, and then that make them not able to go to a football game. So it's very easy for them to just point the finger at Asians who think they are who's got money and no real football passion to go to a game and take their seats. That's one. I think two is a lot of international fans, not just Asians, when they go to a football game in the UK, they would want to capture the moment. So they'll be using their phones to film a lot of the clips. Versus in the UK, people just take their phone out to film maybe a corner, a penalty, or a free kick, and that's it. But then for international fans, they'll be filming probably the whole, not whole game, but at least like 40 or 50 minutes of time. So people were thinking that they are not here in the crowd chanting for the team. They're just wearing Arsenal scarf and they're just there to film. What's the point of being here to waste your seats and not support your team? At least in the way that the local people think that how a supporter should behave. So there are just two factors playing all together, and it will make people think that, you know, this person's just plastic, the tourists, they're not a real fan compared to the majority of the home fans here.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with you 100%, man. And a couple months back, me and Jonty went to Dortmund to watch a game as like a, you know, a little kind of a birthday getaway for him. And honestly, we behaved exactly that way. And obviously, like, we aren't Dortmund diehards, so in essence, that would be kind of a fair critique. But at the same time, we're huge football fans, and I don't see a problem with going and experiencing other games in the same way that international fans finally, you know, get to come to the UK and support their fans at the games. I think it's totally fine. Like, I get there's certain gripes, right? The half and half scarf thing, I think that unifies all fans. Pretty much all fans think that that's kind of a stupid thing that exists in the first place. But even that, like, I get it. Like, you know, when I said off camera to Draco, I've been to the Emirates with Jonty. I've watched the game. You see tourist fans or fans who have come that are tourists and not necessarily regulars with, you know, with season tickets or anything like that, and they contribute to the atmosphere. All right, maybe they're not like, you know, shirts off, bellies out like the Newcastle diehards and singing in the snow and stuff like that, but they contribute to the atmosphere, and it's a positive thing, I think, that they bring. But I think you're right, man. I think there's elements of xenophobia which kind of exist in our society a little bit that come out in football and that, but there's also like realistic, direct problems that they think come from it when, you know, potentially tourist fans or foreign fans are spending more money on tickets. It's harder for them to get them, or they have to pay more, and they kind of feel like, you know, it's foreigners stealing our jobs kind of attitude to football.
Well, I mean, from that, do you then think? I mean, Draco, what's your opinion then on the kind of rising ticket prices? If that's essentially causing some of the issue that we're talking about, because it's essentially misdirected anger, right? They're saying, "Oh, I can't get a ticket. Who can I blame?" I'm not going to blame the club. I'll blame the people that are paying their money towards the club and actually helping indirectly to the club to buy the people that we buy, like rice, etc. What do you think about the whole rising ticket? Because I think, obviously, was it yesterday? I can't remember. Was it Liverpool? I think they had a mini protest of sorts where they didn't fly any flags for the game because of rising ticket prices as like a way of protest. So what's your kind of viewpoint on that?
Are we talking about the rising ticket prices from the club, or is it the second?
No, just in general, like obviously how the club controls tickets out there, you know, obviously because there's marketplaces and stuff. I know a lot of clubs trying to crack down on that so that we can stop the inflated prices and also just general rising ticket prices as things go up. Like, how do you think that we solve that issue to maybe get rid of some of the other misdirected anger that's coming with it?
Yeah, I think I've attended a lot of ticketing workshop with Arsenal. They've been trying so hard to stop all sorts of ticket touts since we started performing well. And I know they've put tremendous work into this initiative. They've spent a lot of money, resources, budget and stuff into looking at this. But I think it will always happen. We can't stop people from selling their tickets on second-hand market. The club has banned, I think this season, 30k memberships for selling their tickets or having some suspicious behaviors in the system. But I think there will always be one or two tickets that will appear on the market, and then people always think that someone will buy it. So I don't think we can ever stop this kind of illegal tickets out behaviors. But then every time I go to ticketing workshop, I kind of speak to the club and go like, one thing is that there are international fans spending money to buy those inflated tickets, but then on the other hand, I want to make sure that no East Asian fans will be targeted by the club themselves to think that if you come here, you're a tourist, you probably have spent hundreds of pounds to buy tickets because you see me here in ticketing workshop. I have a season ticket, so it's really hard to play the balance of stopping this kind of ticket touting behaviors and then also ensuring that there's a equal approach to all fans, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. So I get like there is, I think, a certain extent misdirected anger about the prices, but I think there's like they got to fix that. But that's kind of like that's an economic issue. That's something that's got loads of different factors, right? Why prices are set and all that kind of stuff. It gets a bit techie. But if we just talk about the obvious thing, which is just, I guess, showing a bit of respect to these international fans, East Asian fans in particular, that seem to always get targeted. And just, I don't know. I wanted to ask you, Draco, what can be done to I guess, educate some of these fans or try and get them to not have this, feeling or bias towards East Asian fans to think, oh, if I see you, Draco, sitting in the season ticket seat, I'm going to assume that you're, a half and half scarf guy who's just come here for the weekend or whatever. Like, how do we deal with that issue?
I think after a few meetings with the club, I kind of gave them 4 points to look into to tackle this kind of situation. I think that was after the incident in the Chelsea away game when one of our female East Asian supporters got targeted by a person behind her for filming the game, and the person threw kind of rubbish into her hood and called her out for some racial slurs. So the 4 points I told the club, one is we need to educate the crowd more to raise the awareness. I think Arsenal's doing a great job in the EDI field. If you guys have been to Arsenal game, halftime we play the Skakegunner's education piece on homophobic behaviors is not acceptable. So I've spoken to the club and they are looking into the possibility of filming something similar to say that discrimination is not acceptable. East Asians or any other supporters around you, they're the same as you. We support the same team. So it's just how the club is going to deliver this and then get the message right, in line with the Premier League's, no room for racism. At the same time, making a powerful, good comms out there to deliver the message. That's the first point. But then at the same time, we need to recognize that we can't stop racists being racist. If they want to discriminate, we can't educate and just make them stop being discriminative. But then we can have a strong enforcement around the stadium. If you are discriminating supporters, then you're going to face a lifelong ban. You're going to lose a season ticket. That's the second point. And then the third one is to kind of collaborate and give a platform to East Asian supporter groups in Premier League clubs. So for Arsenal, I'm trying to combine and connect all the Arsenal Japan, Arsenal China, Arsenal Korea fans together to have a group together in the club, and then they can connect us to other ethnic minority supporter clubs or other local supporter trusts, and then we can host more events together to raise awareness. So that's the third point. And the last one is to have a stronger reporting mechanism. So one of the problems that we had was West Ham away, and there were 4 East Asians seated together, and then they were late to the game for probably 2 minutes. The seats got taken by 4 teenagers, and they refused to leave the row, saying that they're tourists, they don't deserve to be here, so we're going to take your seats anyways. And then I think what they told me was that some supporters behind them also said, yeah, they probably are tourists, to kind of justify their behaviors. So there were some arguments going on for 10 minutes. The East Asian supporters spoke to the steward at West Ham, but then that incident didn't. It wasn't reported by the studio to the club, and then when we were looking into the incident to investigate, there's no record. We couldn't investigate further, so we need to have a stronger reporting mechanism to make sure that all the reports, all the incidents are recorded in the system, and then in the future the club can use the cameras, CCTVs in the stadium to target those people who were suspected being racist. And then I think these 4 points combining together might provide a solution to it, but I reckon that there's a long way to go, and it's just a starting point at the moment. So
Yeah,
and
no, I've got. Go on.
one more point out, I think we are facing this problem only because Arsenal's doing so well. But I spoke to one of my friends saying that if we lose next 10 games and next season we're fighting for relegation, then the problem will just disappear. So it's an issue that we need to recognize that it comes with the team's performance achievements. As I said, I think past 5-6 years at the end of Wenger times, I never had any problem going to a game because the stadium's half empty anyways, so no one's gonna blame us for being there. But at the same time, they probably think that these people are tourists anyways.
Yeah. No, I mean, to be honest, all of those points, I kind of feel like it's kind of a tap-in, right? Those are things that I mean, I appreciate you've spent time, like, coming up with the points, but there are things that you would hope, in society, you would hope people would be doing those things already, right? You'd hope all of these things are in place, but yeah, obviously, if they're not, or they're not being, they're not being done properly, that's something to address. And like you said, I think a good point is you can't eradicate anything completely, right? Or there might be some ways, but you almost have to become authoritarian to do that. In this society, it's very difficult to do it. Like you said, all you can try and do is come up with some solutions to try and eradicate the problem, as much as possible. But, if someone wants to be racist, if someone finds a way around it and manages to do some discriminatory behavior, ultimately, as long as you're following those steps, there's not much else you can really do, right? But it would certainly make a big impact because you want to see fans from all backgrounds in the stadium. You want to see fans behaving well and treating each other with respect and not, discriminating against people. And, I can't believe that you're a unicorn, Draco. You seem like a very special guy, but I mean, just like, that there are loads of East Asian diehard season ticket fans of all the different clubs. Not every single East Asian that comes to a stadium is a tourist. Like that, we can say 100%. So people, just use a bit of common sense, be respectful to, your fellow supporters, and like you said, hopefully we can all, exist together in happiness and peace, and hopefully our teams do well. But no, man, I appreciate you jumping on, Draco, and chatting that through. I honestly haven't seen anywhere else on the football content creator space talk about this issue and come up with solutions. Like you said, like it's great to have you in this role with Arsenal, and hopefully it spreads out wider. John, do you have any other kind of things you wanted to ask or say around this topic?
I had one. It's just a throwaway type question. I just want to say, ask you a question. Like, since we've had Asians in the team, have you seen any change in that? Because I mean, like, for example, almost every Man United fan I've ever met, even sometimes will compare me to Ji-sung Park, but in a nice way, right? They're trying to mean it because they love him so much, and they've got so much respect for that kind of player. I know now with Tottenham, obviously they have such respect for Son. From your point of view, Tomiyasu, I think he's quite well liked in the general squad. I think the fan base generally likes him as well, even when he's not having his best times, or even if he's not on the pitch necessarily. And I just wanted to ask you, just out of interest, like, have you seen any kind of difference since we've had Tomiyasu around to the behavior towards like East Asian fans?
I think yes and no for me. Well, one thing to highlight is that most of the racist incidents that happens is away games. So home games, I think most supporters are reasonable. They don't just go out there and discriminate, even they think that you are a tourist or you come from a different country. It's usually the away games that's more competitive in terms of getting the ticket. That'll happen. But No, I think people just remain the same. There was once I walked into a Gunners pub. I was wearing a similar outfit as Tommy Elson. He didn't play that day, and someone was asking at the back of my at the back was saying, "Is this person Tommy Elson coming to the pub?" So I was thinking, oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure if I want to get this kind of attention though, because I went to a Spurs away game, and after the game, I think we won last season. I had to cover my shirt so they couldn't tell that I'm an Arsenal fan, right? And then there was a Spurs fan that came up to me and just said, "I'm sorry, mate, but Son plays so bad today."
For God's sake.
I was laughing inside, but I think I replied, I said something like, "Yeah, he's absolutely horrible." I hope But after that, I was thinking, do I really get happy that I just get approached by some randoms and say that Son's played terrible just because I'm Asian? So it's an interesting point, but I never given too much thought about it. I think, yeah. And one more thing about Spurs, I think I was on Twitter seeing a lot of Spurs fans tweeting, saying that it's a disgrace that there are so many Korean tourists in the stadium taking their seats and waving Korean flags. So I thought, Son is the best player and he brought so many international fans over to the stadium, yet there are still some radicals calling them out and they're tourists. So I don't think a player would change those people who are racist.
No.
I mean, they should just be happy that they've got anyone in their stands because they absolutely stink to watch. So they should be happy anyone's in their fan base.
Yeah, I mean, he's their best player. So, and I'll be real. I'm sure Daniel Levy is very happy he's got a player from Korea that plays in his team. And I've heard a lot of stuff about he will never sell Son. And, apart from the fact he's an amazing player, because of a lot of the commercial benefits that, not only the fans come in, sponsorships, all these kind of things. So, yeah, I think it's those idiots, I'll call them idiots for this purpose, don't understand what the benefits that, having an amazing player like Son does to their team. I know you guys might not love him because of his Spurs allegiance, but yeah.
Yeah. I would say most of the fans are reasonable and they're not. They're decent and they behave nice to international fans. And what can make us happy is that I think the Premier League and all Premier League clubs are really looking to improve this EDI aspect. And we have great friends and stuff around us, like Alan himself, connecting all the East Asian fans together from different clubs. So I would have an opportunity to know people like you guys. We can exchange our ideas and make this connection. And if anything were to happen, we can be more united together to face this problem rather than individual clubs and minorities from those clubs to face these problems alone. So I think
definitely.
Very well said. Very well said.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I agree. Let's get on to the fun bit, John. So you've got a very special question that you want to ask Draco, don't you?
I do. I've asked every single guest, and I'll ask you all the same. And I think your answer might hold even a bit more weight. And my question is, who is your favorite Asian player of all time?
Oh, yeah. I forgot that at the beginning you guys said that you're going to ask me this question. I was thinking, Tommy Elson, who else can I say that's my favorite?
Doesn't have to be current, by the way. It can be all time.
Yeah,
so it can be
anyone.
Can be anyone.
Okay, let me just put this one out there. I respect Son as a player, but he's not going to be one of my answers.
Shock.
So yeah, if at the moment I guess it'll be Tommy Elson, for sure. There are a few other Japanese players that I really like.
Yeah, because you said like when you were growing up watching Champions League football, and I remember there were a lot of class Japanese players that were playing around that time.
Yeah.
But did you have a particular favourite out of any of those?
I just don't want to say it because they didn't play for Arsenal. I don't want to say their name. So I'm trying to search an Asian player that's played for Arsenal, and that's my favorite. I think it would be Tomiyasu. But apart from that, I think
Tomiyasu's definitely. Yeah, Tomiyasu's
class,
definitely the
man.
best. He's the best Asian player that's played for Arsenal, because you've had a few. I think you had Inamoto back in the days. I remember, with the gold shirt and the bleach blonde hair
Miyachi.
and stuff. Yeah, you had Miyachi. You've had Park Chu Young, who I think was their Korean player for a little while.
Wait,
had a
does
few,
Nico
but I think...
Yunaris count?
Oh yes,
He,
of course.
Because
yeah,
he plays for China now, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I still watch him when China plays sometimes.
Plays for Guan as well. I might go and watch
Beijing
him next time
Guan.
I'm in Beijing, mate.
Are you guys
Yeah,
all
did-
Asian?
Yeah, I have to be.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
from
Spence.
Shanghai area, so I hate Beijing.
All right, so we got. I like that. That's the social media derby as well. But no, yeah. I mean, Nico Yanaris, did he even play? I don't know if he actually played a lot of senior games for Arsenal, though. Right, that's the only thing. I think he kind of left early
He
on.
played one. I'm looking it up right now. Over his 3-year period, he played one. He had one appearance.
You can say it, but I think, come on.
He was in the same group as Harry Kane, I think. They have photos
really?
together.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's interesting. I mean,
back when Harry Kane was on the
Tomiyasu...
right side of North London, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I'd probably say Tomiyasu is probably your best player that you've had, of an Asian background. But yeah, no, I mean, early those Champions League days, who was around? Nakamura, I guess, was around. Honda was around.
I think Kagawa would be my favorite.
Oh yeah,
apart from Tomiyasu. Played for Dortmund. Really liked how he played. You guys talk about going to Dortmund for a game. I did too, just to see Kagawa. I think that was last season for him, but he didn't play that game. He was injured.
Oh man. So... Oh, that's pain. The pain. No, Kagawa. You know what? He doesn't get shouts a lot. I don't know why. I understand the United time didn't go so well, but at Dortmund he was a killer. And I think of that Dortmund team, that Klopp Dortmund team that won so much, he was super underrated. And I don't know if it's because, he wasn't super flashy, or, he didn't do loads of step overs and all that kind of stuff, or if it was because, he was sold for a reasonable amount and not a huge amount or whatever. But he was one of my favorite players in that Dortmund squad of that period. Yeah. So I hear you, Draco. He's a big fan.
I wasn't gonna say his name because he played for United. I unfollowed him after he played for United, so I'll give another name I really liked, Hasebe, if you guys know.
Oh yes, yeah.
He was very experienced defender.
Yeah, he's been playing for ages. Isn't he still playing now? Or he was still playing last season for Frankfurt, I think.
Last season,
yes.
Late 30s, yeah. He's retired this season. I'm not too sure. But I used to enjoy watching him play. They beat us in Europe as well when Unai Emery was around.
You're choosing all the ones that we're supposed to hate, man. Come on.
That's why it was so hard. I was thinking, which thing I can say that's not anti-Arsenal. So maybe I'll call Tomiyasu anyways.
Now, you said Tomiyasu. We'll take your first answer, and I hear you. I really like Tomiyasu. I think you might be seeing him hopefully over the next couple of weeks come back into the team. I think this is perfect Tomiyasu time to try and lock down some big players that you might be playing in the Champions League and in the Premier League running. So hopefully we'll get to see a lot of him. But yeah, no, we'll wrap up the pod here, Draco. This has been an amazing chat, man. It was really good to get you on. Very, very long overdue. And yeah, we'll have to get you on again. Hopefully, celebrating a Premier League title at the end of a season, or beginning of next season, and we can all gloat about how Liverpool is and Man City is, and we can do it together. We can be like united.
And we can talk about how United beat Chelsea.
Yeah. We can say that too. Hopefully, we can also say how United won the FA Cup, and we can all, get our little. I'll buy a mini trophy on Amazon, and we can get them all out on the screen. That would be great. But we'll wrap up the pod here, man. Thank you. Yeah. Oh no. Why did you ruin it, man? I was so close to the outro. And we were about to have such a good pod, and you had to throw that in there. But no, still, it's been a great chat, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, everyone, Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Johns, and we'll see you all next week. Take care.
Pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you.